Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land. I'm your host, Rolene Marks, and just a reminder that the Israel Brief brings you news from Israel, based in Israel. So without further ado, let's take a look at today's top stories. For a few weeks now, we've been speaking about the carnival that takes place every year in the Belgian town of Aalst, very, very close to the capital, Brussels, and the international outcry over anti-Semitic imagery. Well, yesterday there was a carnival in the town of Campo de Criptano in Spain, and some of the imagery there was also disturbing. There were revelers or carnival float participants dressed up as Nazi officers, complete with dominatrix whips, as well as people dressed up in what would appear to be concentration camp pajamas or uniforms with sequins carrying Israeli flags, and on their float were images or moldings of what would be crematoria with chimneys and a big menorah in between them. Now, it's profoundly offensive to see this kind of imagery in carnivals, and the Israeli embassy in Spain has condemned this vile behavior, the vile float that took place in the carnival. And the Auschwitz Museum, they've weighed in. They said that it is absolutely trivialized the Holocaust and is profoundly offensive. Now, in discussion with the organizers of this carnival, they say that their intention was to honor the crimes of the Holocaust, to honor what happened. But is it really honoring, or is it trivializing when you have concentration camp victims dressed up in sequins and smiling Nazis with dominatrix whips? You decide, but for most of us it is profoundly, profoundly hurtful. It denigrates, it cheapens the memory of the Holocaust, and of course it trivializes, and it almost makes it normal for this kind of imagery, for this kind of revisionism to be okay. In other news, we now go to the United States, where Democratic presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders, who currently is the front runner when it comes to the nominees, took part in a Democratic nominees debate last night. Now, what is very controversial is over the last couple of days, he has taken aim at AIPAC, and he has said that he will not participate in the AIPAC conference, accusing the organization of giving a stage to bigots. Now, we must remind Bernie Sanders that not only are some of his surrogates in his campaign absolute bigots and anti-Semite, and here I use Linda Sarsour as an example. Linda Sarsour, a big supporter of the BDS movement, which calls for the destruction or the end of the state of Israel. But every Democratic candidate or hopeful or nominee has addressed AIPAC, and AIPAC has provided a stage for Jews, for non-Jews, for left-leaning Israelis, for right-leaning Israelis. There is a variety of opinions that are present there, and it's very, very disturbing that he has snubbed a whole sector of American Jewry, but also it does no favor to him or his position when it comes to Israel and the Palestinians if he does not want to engage with both sides. And also disturbing were his comments during the Democratic debate last night, where he accused Netanyahu of being a racist, and also said that should he be successful in his bid for the presidency, he would consider moving the US embassy from Jerusalem, where it is now based, back to Tel Aviv. And Joe Biden, another Democratic hopeful, took aim at him and said, you actually cannot do that. So it's very disturbing, the trend, what we see coming from Democratic hopeful Bernie Sanders. And now going back to Europe, I mean, we've done a whole traverse around the world today. A survey was recently conducted by the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, and about 16,000 Europeans from various countries participated, and the results were quite frightening. About a fifth of them believe that there is a Jewish cabal that runs the world, and other accusations accuse Jews of using Holocaust victimhood to try and push forward an agenda. There were other findings that were also disturbing, but one glimmer of hope was that at least a quarter of respondents said they understand why Israel sometimes responds the way that we do when we are under attack into issues regarding security. The findings are particularly disturbing, especially as anti-Semitism continues to rise around the world. And earlier today it was announced that European Jewish leaders will be unveiling their plan on how they hope governments across the continent will deal with rising anti-Semitism and the important role that politicians have to play. So these are the top stories making headlines in Israel. For some strange reason, this election's been rather quiet. Even Jack agrees. But don't forget that if you want to catch up on your Israel reading, look no further than our website at www.layoverland.online. You can also check out our Facebook page at Lottle Site. Give us a like, a follow, and share our content. And remember, it is you play a part in helping to get Israel's side of the story and to educate against anti-Semitism out to the masses. And you can help us do this by subscribing to our YouTube channel at The Israel Brief. So simply look for that, click on the subscribe button, and you do your part in helping to make sure that our voices are heard effectively. So with the Hump Day or Wednesday edition of The Israel Brief, I'm Rolene Marks, and we'll chat again tomorrow.